Later, under the sprawling branches of the ancient fig tree, Daniel approached Zola. "You know how this place works," he said quietly. "Once people pick a target, there's no mercy." Zola met his gaze steadily. "Then I won't give them anything." Daniel sighed, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. "Just remember, you're not alone." That night, the dorm room was a fragile truce of silence. But when a sudden power outage plunged Nkwe into darkness, Amara and Zola found themselves thrown together in the dim glow of a single candle. Their hands brushed, reaching for the matchbox. For a long moment, neither pulled away. "I don't want to fight anymore," Zola whispered. Amara's voice was barely audible. "Me neither." In the flickering candlelight, walls crumbled, and a fragile connection began to take root. One that could either save them or destroy everything they knew. The power outage stretched through the night, draping Nkwe Boarding School in an unnatural silence pierced only by whispered breaths and distant murmurs. In dorm room 17, the soft flicker of the candle cast dancing shadows on the peeling walls, painting Amara and Zola in a fragile light neither was prepared to face. Their hands had brushed, lingered. Neither had pulled away. The silence between them was no longer empty. It thrummed with unspoken feelings: confusion, curiosity, fear. Zola broke it first, her voice trembling but steady. "Why do you hate me so much?" Amara's eyes, reflecting the candle's flame, softened for a moment. "It's not you. It's what you represent. The world I've been raised in. It tells me to keep people like you at arm's length." Zola nodded slowly, understanding the invisible chains binding them both. Morning came reluctant and gray. The power still out. Nkwe's students navigated their classes under emergency lights and the hum of whispered rumors. Amara and Zola, still grappling with the night's fragile bond, found themselves thrown together in more ways than one. In the crowded dining hall, eyes followed them like hawks. Sarah's sneer was sharp. "What's going on between you two? You think we won't notice?" Lillian's glare promised trouble. "Be careful. This school will devour anyone who steps out of line." Amara's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't deny it. Not yet. Later, in the library's quiet sanctuary, Daniel caught Zola alone. "I've been where you are," he admitted softly. "It's not easy, but sometimes the toughest battles teach you who you really are." Zola's gaze dropped. "And what if who I am isn't enough?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Then you fight harder, and you find the people who will stand with you." That night, as the candlelight flickered again, Amara and Zola shared stories of dreams, fears, and the suffocating weight of expectations. The walls of dorm room 17, once a battlefield, felt smaller, closer, intimate in ways neither had imagined. But outside, the school's shadows lengthened, and the danger of discovery loomed, threatening to tear apart what fragile connection had begun to bloom. The days at Nkwe rolled on, each one heavier than the last. The initial shock of the power outage had faded, but the consequences lingered like a stubborn stain. Whispers followed Amara and Zola like shadows, and every glance from classmates felt like a trial by fire. In class, Amara found herself distracted, her usual sharpness dulled by the growing unease that she and Zola were on a dangerous path. The girls' forced coexistence had shifted from cold hostility to something neither wanted to name. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting long orange fingers across the school's cracked walkways, Amara sat alone beneath the old fig tree. She traced patterns in the dirt with a restless finger, replaying memories she had tried to bury. Zola approached quietly, holding 2 bottles of water. She sat beside her without a word. "You okay?" Zola asked softly. Amara hesitated, then nodded. "I'm just Tired of fighting? Zola smiled faintly. Me too. For a moment, the distance between their worlds shrank. But the walls of Nkwe were merciless. Lillian and Sarah, sensing the threat to their social reign, began plotting. She's softening, Lillian whispered to Sarah. Zhao's losing control. We can't let that happen. Sarah grinned, cold and calculating. Then we'll make sure the school hears the right story. A scandal. Something big. Later, Daniel found Zola in the courtyard, alone and vulnerable. They're watching, he warned. They'll try to break you. Zola clenched her fists. Let them try. Daniel's eyes held a mix of admiration and concern. You're stronger than you know. That night, dorm room 17 was quiet but charged. As the lights dimmed and the school fell asleep, Amara and Zola lay side by side, the unspoken growing between them. In the darkness, their hands found each other, a tentative bridge over the chasm of fear and expectation. But every choice had a price, and the price of their closeness was yet to be paid. The Nkwe campus glowed under the afternoon sun, its aged brick walls stretching tall and imposing against the vast Nairobi sky. The air was thick with anticipation, a silent storm brewing beneath the school's polished surface. The battle lines between privilege and poverty, secrecy and exposure had sharpened, and no one could tell which side would strike first. In dorm room 17, Amaran Zhao sat perched on the edge of her bed, fingers twisting nervously around the strap of her designer bag. Across from her, Zola Mbeki was meticulously folding a worn scarf, the quiet of the room heavy with unspoken tension. Despite the growing connection between them, the shadows of fear and suspicion hung like a veil over their fragile truce. You think this will last? Amara's voice was low, almost hesitant. Us, I mean. Zola looked up, her dark eyes steady but tired. I don't know, but I want it to. More than anything. The vulnerability in her voice was raw, stirring something deep inside Amara. Something neither of them dared to name yet. Outside their door, Lillian and Sarah plotted with the precision of seasoned tacticians. They leaned over a smartphone screen, eyes gleaming with malice as they scrolled through photos and snippets of whispered gossip. Look at this, Lillian said, flicking the phone towards Sarah. Zhao and Becky, caught laughing together after lights out. The perfect scandal. Sarah smirked, eyes cold. If we leak this right, we can blow their little friendship wide open. Everyone loves a good scandal. Especially one that threatens the social order, Lillian added. We have to act fast. If Zhao loses her standing, the whole school shifts. We can't let that happen. Their plans were meticulous. Anonymous notes slipped under doors, suggestive whispers in the dining hall, and a carefully staged encounter that would leave no doubt in anyone's mind. Meanwhile, Daniel Mwangi watched the unfolding drama with a guarded expression. From his vantage point near the ancient fig tree, he could see the tension writ large on Amara and Zola's faces. He approached them during a break between classes. You need to be careful, he warned, his tone serious. This school can be a dangerous place if you let your guard down. Amara met his gaze, a flicker of frustration in her eyes. We're not children. Daniel nodded slowly. Maybe not, but sometimes the people around you won't treat you like one. Zola folded her arms, voice firm. We're not scared. Daniel smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Good, because you're going to need that courage. That evening, Nkwe was alive with restless energy. The cultural festival was days away, and the school buzzed with excitement and nerves. Students practiced dances, rehearsed plays, and prepared for competitions that blurred the lines between social groups, forcing interaction, collaboration, and sometimes unexpected alliances. Amara and Zola found themselves partnered for a traditional dance piece. The irony was not lost on either of them, but the necessity was clear. Ready to make a fool of ourselves? Amara joked, breaking the ice as they met under the sprawling fig tree. Zola laughed softly. Only if you lead. Their rehearsals were awkward at first, two worlds colliding in rhythm and movement, but gradually, something shifted. The dance became a metaphor for their relationship. Hesitant steps, tentative touches, growing trust amid uncertainty. As the festival approached, Lillian and Sarah's campaign of whispers grew louder. Rumors about Amara and Zola's closeness spread like wildfire, fueled by the anonymous notes and secret messages they had planted. At dinner one night, the dining hall simmered with gossip. Students cast curious glances at the two girls sitting apart, each surrounded by their circles, but linked invisibly by the storm swirling around them. "You think it's true?" a voice whispered nearby. "Zhao and Becky. Together?" Another answered, voice hushed but eager. "If it is, it'll tear the school apart." Amara felt eyes on her, heavy and accusing. She clenched her fists beneath the table, struggling to maintain composure. Later that night, the tension broke in the smallest, most intimate way. In dorm room 17, the walls thick with silence, Amara and Zola finally spoke the truth neither had dared admit. "I'm scared," Amara confessed, voice barely above a whisper. Zola reached out, her fingers tracing a tentative path across Amara's hand. "Me too." For a long moment the world outside, the threats, the gossip, the pressure, faded away. All that remained was the fragile connection between them, pulsing with hope and fear. But hope was a dangerous thing at Nkwe. The next morning, as students shuffled into the school assembly hall, the headmaster's stern voice cut through the murmurs. "It has come to my attention that inappropriate behavior has been observed between two students," he said gravely. "Nkwe Boarding School prides itself on discipline and moral standards. Any violation will be dealt with severely." The crowd shifted uneasily. Eyes darted toward Amara and Zola, sitting stiffly side by side, their hands hidden beneath the table. The storm had arrived. The assembly hall at Nkwe Boarding School was suffocating with tension. Rows of polished wooden benches creaked under restless students as the headmaster's stern voice lingered like thunder in a summer storm. Every eye darted nervously around the room, searching for signs, for confirmation, for a target to blame. Amaran Zhao sat rigid, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. Beside her, Zolambeki was a study in controlled composure, but her clenched jaw betrayed the turmoil beneath. The headmaster's words had left a sharp sting, and though no names were uttered, the implication was clear. "This school will not tolerate behavior that threatens its values or community," he declared, voice hardening. "Any students found responsible will face severe disciplinary action." Murmurs rippled through the crowd like a rising tide, some whispers eager, others fearful. The unspoken accusation hung between Amara and Zola like a noose tightening. Outside the hall, the school grounds buzzed with gossip. Groups clustered in hushed conversations, speculation fueling suspicions and judgment. Lillian and Sarah exchanged satisfied smiles. Their plan had worked. The seeds of scandal had taken root, spreading quickly in the fertile soil of boarding school intrigue. "Soon, Zhao will be begging us for mercy," Sarah whispered, eyes glinting with triumph. Lillian nodded, savoring the moment. "And Becky won't know what hit her." But Daniel Mwangi, observing from a distance, frowned deeply. He knew how fast a whisper could turn to a roar in Nkwe's unforgiving halls. He approached Zola later that afternoon, voice low and urgent. "You have to be careful. They're watching your every move." Zola met his gaze steadily. "I won't let them win." Daniel sighed, conflicted. Sometimes winning means knowing when to fight and when to survive. That evening, dorm room 17 was a crucible of conflicting emotions. Amara paced nervously, the weight of impending consequences pressing down on her. Zola sat on the bed, eyes distant but resolute. "I don't want to lose everything," Amara confessed, voice trembling. Zola reached out, taking Amara's hand in a rare gesture of comfort. "You won't. Not if we stand together." For a brief moment, the room was filled with a fragile hope. But hope was a luxury Nkwe rarely afforded. The next morning, a note slipped under their door shattered the fragile peace. "Watch your back. Secrets never stay buried." Neither girl needed to be told who sent it. Lillian's handwriting was unmistakable, a final warning. As the days dragged on, the pressure mounted. Teachers cast wary glances. Friends grew distant or turned hostile. The school's walls closed in, suffocating and cold. In class, Amara's thoughts wandered, her usual sharp focus dulled by anxiety. Zola noticed and caught her eye, offering a small, reassuring smile. "Whatever happens, we face it together," she whispered. Amara nodded, drawing strength from the promise. Meanwhile, Sarah and Lillian escalated their campaign, fabricating stories, manipulating truth, turning students against the two girls.